and have, hold on, first I have to do this first, sorry.
I've officially started recording.
Beautiful. I am going to play the slideshow from beginning, and then I need to get out of presenter view. Okay. All right, now I can see you all because I have the Zoom call over here. All right, I am going to screen share screen 2. Okay, you can let people in if you like. Hi, friends. Thanks for joining. We're going to get started in a few minutes so people have an opportunity to join. Thank you for being here. I can hear my child running around upstairs right now. I told my husband, you got to keep her upstairs. Mama's working tonight. I got a serious business time, and I can hear her running around now. So clearly that's going well.
I'm hearing the pump, 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 pump.
Can you hear it? Oh no. Oh no, I wasn't sure if everyone could, if my mic was picking that up or not.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
she's probably getting her exercises in, which entails running around the kitchen and living room space in big circles.
It's wonderful seeing some Viking families I haven't seen in a while. Welcome this evening.
And so just so everyone knows, oops, I got the welcome going. I didn't mean to do that. Just so everyone knows, you are more than welcome to chat things. Our host tonight, Mr. Rich, who's Renton High School AAC, will be monitoring our chat. At the end of the evening, we'll lift the mute function and allow people to just ask questions if they like. So if you have a question that you want to just ask, you can just wait till the end. That's totally fine. You can also type it in the chat box, and Mr. Rich will, if he can't answer it, he will save it for when we are doing questions and answers at the end of the presentation tonight. And I'm just going to wait till about 6:05 to give people a chance to join. So if you wanted to run and grab something, to a glass of water or something, or stretch your legs really fast, you're welcome to do so. Just want to give you all an idea of how much longer we're going to wait before we start. I try to start on time as much as possible, but I also understand that some people might need a little extra time to join. And if you have any friends who aren't in the meeting, you should text them and tell them to join. Get them here. Oh, cool. One of our teachers is joining us. Awesome. Just letting you know, we'll get started in just about 2 minutes. So text your friends, tell them to join. If they haven't seen Miss Pitts in a while, this is their chance. Oh, you're muted, Miss Pitts, if you were saying something.
I
Yeah.
know, I'm talking to myself, but put the link in the chat and we can send it out.
Let's do it.
That's my AA. It's good to see. I haven't seen Sultana. I haven't seen Memo in a while. Miss Browning. Oh, Mr. Akamoto, I haven't seen you in a long, long time. Miss your faces. Let's see, who else is on here I haven't seen in a while. I miss everyone.
Where is there? Ah. Oh yeah, did the link come in?
Sorry, Tress. Yeah, that wasn't supposed to be directly to you.
Ms. Rich, I sent you the link if you want to copy and paste it. You're the only one who can send it to everyone. There you go. You got the magic. Oh, I think you sent it just back to me. The fun of the Zoom chat. All right, we're going to get started in about a minute. All right, we're going to get started. Thank you so much for those of you who joined tonight. This is a joint collaboration between Dimmitt Middle School and Renton High School. My name is Susanna War. I am an assistant principal at Renton High School. I work with the 9th and 10th grade, and I'm joined tonight by some members of our leadership at both schools. I'm going to let them introduce themselves really quick.
Hi, my name is Joya Pitts. I'm the principal at Dimmitt. I'm so happy to see some of our families here, and we are really trying to bridge our gap this year between Renton and Dimmitt, so we are all one, because our Dimmitt students do go to Renton, and we want to make sure you're ready and prepared, especially in the times that we are living in now. So we are working together to make our transition for our 8th to 9th grade as seamless as possible. Thank you.
And then also, Mr. Colley, would you like to introduce yourself?
Of course. I'm Malcolm Colley, and I'm the International Baccalaureate Program Coordinator for both Dimmitt and Renton High, and that's one of the ways that we're working on bringing the schools together and having a good bridge between the two schools is by having the International Baccalaureate philosophies and programs extend across the two schools.
Awesome, thank you so much. And Mr. Rich?
I'm William Rich. I'm one of Renton High School's academic advancement coordinators. I typically work with juniors and seniors, but we are slowly starting to move down, and I've got a couple freshmen on my caseload this year, which is fun. I primarily just support students when it comes to their academic needs.
Awesome, thank you so much. All right, friends. So again, welcome. Thank you for joining. We have a couple items on our agenda tonight. We're going to first start off with just some general overview and some main kind of messages for you. We have some basics of online learning, some really good tips and suggestions to how to make online learning a little more successful. And then we have some mind frames for success to talk about, which is really about encouraging the kind of ways in which your student addresses challenges. And right now we're living in a pretty big challenge. So these are all just suggestions we hope that could help you. We by no means have any magic bullet that will fix all problems or whatnot, but we definitely have a lot of ideas we want to share and hope that it will be a support to help make your students successful in that transition to high school and eventually post-secondary to beyond. That's the goal, is being successful independently on your own after school is done. So we have this acknowledgement first and foremost where we do recognize that this is a less than ideal situation right now, learning online. This is not how anyone really wants to learn. We want nothing more than have you back in our schools, in our classrooms, seeing your beautiful faces, engaging. And we're going to continue to do everything within our power to give your child a supported education. But more than ever, what is so true is we need you, our families, as partners in this work. So we know you have a lot going on outside of just educating your child. You have a lot of things going on, right? There, job worries, money, the health of our families and friends. There's a lot happening. And we're not in this right now to ask you to become the teacher, but we're asking you to partner with us. And we really would hope that you get something useful out of tonight's information. So this is the number one thing. There are still expectations during online learning that this year does count, especially if you are an 8th grader going into 9th grade, because the grades you're in 8th grade dictate the courses you get placed in 9th grade. And then 9th grade really counts because you're earning your credits towards graduation. This year does still count. So going to your Zoom classes every day matters, showing up. And then not just showing up to your Zoom classes, but participation matters. We have a lot of students who will show up on a routine basis. They got great attendance, but they're not participating in any way, especially when the teacher is going through an assignment right there in class. And that is just kind of an overarching big statement that we can say to our families is how important it is that your child is showing up every day and trying every day. You're still required to learn to earn that graduation on time. Ms. Pitts, is there anything you wanted to add to this? Okay. So the basics of online learning, there's 2 parts to this. The first part is about establishing routines, creating a learning environment, understanding and learning Canvas and Skyward, and then Zoom etiquette. The second part is more about the health side of it, about sleep, screen time, and how to communicate with teachers. So let's dive into this. So the basics, as much as you are able, it's really best to establish routines and create a home learning environment. So what does that look like? Self-care. Identify self-care needs of your children and develop routines for them to accomplish tasks. Now, that's pretty broad, so it really is how it works for you and your family. You know your children better than we do. You know your family situation better than we do. So of course, do this as it fits with your family best. But maybe your kid really does need a break sometime, or maybe they need a chance to hang out with their siblings. But they also need routines. They really need a schedule, and that's the next piece there, developing a schedule. A big one that I cannot emphasize enough is a morning routine. So waking up and rolling over and opening up your Chromebook to log into your first meeting is not a good morning routine. You need to actually get out of bed, change your clothes, brush your teeth, eat some breakfast, take the dog for a walk, whatever that might look like. Having a morning routine you do before classes start is super important for students. A next piece is a workspace. As much as able, try not to work in bed where you just woke up. If you have to work in your bedroom because it's the quietest space in your house, that's totally fine. But you should do your best to transition from it being your comfort home space to a place of academic work. So turning on a brighter light, opening up the blinds, get some natural light in there, setting up a desk space as however you're able, right? Having all of your materials next to you that you need, making it a place where you're as much as possible, kind of like you're in a classroom. Consistency is huge. Keeping your space where you're learning is consistent is great, as well as all those routines. So if you need breakfast, make sure you don't skip it. You want to be consistent. What you do at lunchtime. I know that I have a teacher that I evaluate, I talk to, and she started taking jogs at her lunch break, and it has really helped her. She wasn't really a runner before, but that consistent routine thing has just helped her clear her mind and keep a schedule and keep going. Supplies. If you don't have something you need to do your work, students, let someone know. Your counselor, your teacher, your AAC, your admin, we will help you get the supplies you need, especially when it comes to technology, because that's so very vital right now. But keep that Chromebook plugged in and charged. Try and be as close to your internet router, your hotspot as possible. If something is broken or not working, let us know. And then of course, breaks. Goes back to self-care. You need to make sure that you're getting water, you're keeping your stomach full, you are getting up and moving as much as you're able. Sitting down for 5 hours a day is not really good. It's good for your brain and for your memory to get up and move a little bit. Even if you just walk around your apartment a couple times, that would be great. Any of those things would be wonderful, and it helps build a healthier learning environment.
Can I add, Ms. Ward, to make sure also every night, turn off your computers. Actually log them off. Don't just put them to sleep. Turn it off. It's like you're turning off your brain also. We need you to step away, walk away. It's not that we really need you to shut down. And that means both the computer and your thinking. Because like Ms. Ward is saying, getting out, taking a walk, doing some things that you not be in front of a TV or not be in front of a computer, just talk, listen to music, something. We need you to have some types of routines that you're not engaged in always a screen.
Exactly, definitely. So the next piece, and this is a big one for parents, for families. There are two main pieces of technology that you really should get very familiar with: Canvas and Skyward. And we will post this video as well as this PowerPoint on our respective websites, both Renton and Dimmitt. So these links, that word Canvas there is a link to a YouTube tutorial the district put together to teach parents how to get a parent Canvas Observer account so they can always see what their child is doing on Canvas. And Skyward, so you can access your students' attendance and grades, because that is where attendance and grades are posted. So this will all live in a place where you can access it. It's currently live, the district has put it out, but I'll make it really easy to find for you. So,
Hey, Ms. Ward, we've got a raised hand.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't notice. Mr. Rich, could you help me address that?
Sophia.
Oh, Sophia. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My kids are yelling.
Okay.
I'm the only one that has questions in these meetings. I agreed with the previous chart, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Sophia, that she's in middle school, she's doing all of that stuff. But I have a kid in Renton High School that he just do that, like you were mentioning, right? Like grab his computer and just put it in his bed, grab the dog, and I actually have a picture of them in their new classroom in the bed with the dog and their computer. My issue with him is, like, I try to tell him all of this stuff, but he's getting excellent grades. He's having all 4s and all of that stuff. So how that you can address this, the importance of this stuff with a kid that is getting really good grades?
So I think the best thing the best advice I would give, and I fully understand as a parent myself that children never really want to listen to their parents when they give good advice. So one thing I would say is, if you could identify the teacher or adult at the building who they really respect, maybe they could help emphasize this message too. But I would say is that the habits you want to have to be successful as an adult don't magically appear when you graduate when you're 18. You have to practice them now. Like the habits of success you want to have, that you know successful people have, that you've seen or you've practiced yourself once or twice, but you're not doing all the time. Now's when it starts. You don't wait until you graduate and magically wake up with adult habits. Now's the time. So that's the best I could say. And I am very happy to hear that rolling over, opening the Chromebook, still earning good grades, but that won't always be the case. So I think it's all about practicing the habits right now. Excellent question. Thank you. So let's quickly give you a brief overview for those of you who aren't aware. Canvas is the learning management system, LMS, that both Renton and Dimmitt use, meaning all of the learning is posted through Canvas. Activities, interactions, discussion questions, all that kind of stuff happens on Canvas. Both schools might use Google Classroom a little bit too as an adjunct, like or the Google, not Google Classroom, pardon me, the Google Suite, but Canvas is where the learning is happening. Skyward is the student management system, SMS, where official grades are posted, attendance, other information. If you are finding you are not getting email communication or phone communications or whatnot from the school, you can go into Skyward and update your contact information yourself. And that's whatever email address for a parent is in Skyward. That's how we do our automated information push outs that we do. And again, there'll be links shared that tell you how to do these things in the PowerPoint. You could also at any time email and say, hey, I want help with this, and we'd be happy. Our counseling secretary would be happy to help you. I'm sure Dimmitt's counseling secretary or counselor would be willing to help you too. Now, as I said before, parents can get an observer account that partners with your students' Canvas counts. So you can go in and literally see the work that teachers are assigning and if your student has turned it in. So when they say, oh yeah, I got my homework done, you can go in and actually check for yourself. That is a really big tip, and one of the strongest suggestions I have is getting on Canvas yourself as a parent. So here's some key tips for supporting your child in Canvas. First of all, finding out how to log in, getting that observer account. That was back on slide 7 is the link for how to do that. Make sure the passwords that your child is using are secure and that they don't share their passwords with anybody, okay? This is really important, especially when it comes to Zoom meetings and students doing the occasional Zoom bombing. And if it's under your student's name, you don't want that to happen. So passwords need to stay secure. When you have time, or when you can make the time, clicking around Canvas and learning all the different features of the classrooms is really helpful, so you understand like the syllabus page, the calendar page, what modules look like, and these words become familiar to you. Have your students show you. That's what I would do. I'd sit my kid down, I'd say, show me how to do this, and they should know how to. And this is the last really important one. Find out the protocols for how your child submits an assignment. So the way in which they submit it isn't always just straightforward in Canvas. Sometimes there's a Nearpod or a Flipgrid or another activity embedded that they have to finish, and then finishing that is how it gets submitted. Find out for how they're supposed to ask a teacher a question about an assignment, and then what do they do if an assignment is missing after your child's turned it in. Find these things out. Ask the teachers, ask your student what happens. And if they don't have the answer, then it's a good time for the student to reach out to the teacher and find out too. Don't wait until you have a missing assignment before you need to figure out how to deal with the missing assignments. So next we're going to talk about Zoom etiquette. Most of your students, if they have been attending their Zoom classes, are pretty familiar. The standard norm has been, you know, camera off, you know, muted, not really doing anything, because we get it. It's kind of scary. It's way different being in the classroom where everyone's there and you don't feel like you're being watched like a hawk. But we get it with Zoom, there's a little bit of anxiety. So there are some etiquette guidelines to make Zooming easier. So of course, knowing the teacher's expectations, making sure your student knows the schedule for when they have a live synchronous class versus if the day is going to be asynchronous or it's like offline working. I know at Renton, a lot of our teachers have built-in work days throughout the week where like today is a set asynchronous day. You are going to spend the day not in a Zoom class, but you do have work you get done and submit. So making sure your student understands that schedule. And I know it's scary, but I cannot encourage enough you encouraging your child to use their camera, meaning turn it on. You can turn off self-view so you don't see yourself, but if teachers can see the student faces, that is the #1 thing our teachers want, is to be able to see their students. And it's not even because they're expecting them to suddenly get really talkative, but there's a lot of nonverbal feedback teachers get when they're teaching. Like students, they can see if a student gets it on their face, or if they're totally confused, they can in that moment reach out and say, let me explain it again. So when they just look at the black blank screens, they're missing out on a lot of feedback from your child. So I would really, really emphasize, students, I know it's scary, but if you start, some of your friends will start too, do your best to start showing up. The mute is a big one. If you are
And can
not,
I add, at the
oh,
middle
please.
school, if we ask you to show your camera, it's because we're doing a check for understanding. Otherwise, we totally respect and understand and get it if the camera's off. We're working at people just feeling comfortable and showing up. So the high school, just know as you move to the high school, if we are still in this learning environment, they need to be more willing to turn it on. We're working on other issues because it's a social emotional wise, they're launching towards that's going to be if you're moving to post-secondary. But right now, when teachers ask to turn it on, turn it at that point, then you can turn it off. That's just so you know, at the middle school, that is a difference there.
That's a really good point, because at the college level, you're required to have your camera on. Right. I have some friends whose kids are in their first year of college, and I was talking, they're my neighbors down the street, and I was talking to them, and they're required to have their camera on. We're not requiring it, but we are really heavily asking and pushing for it. We get it. If your internet is not super stable and the video is making it really hard to get good audio, okay, we get it. You have to cut the video so you can hear the learning and watch the teacher. We get that. But as I was saying, there's a lot of nonverbal feedback that teachers need and do so much better with if they can get that from their students. So of course, the last point is kind of a pretty basic one about just talking with your student about how it's going and finding out how they're feeling about their live Zoom sessions, getting that feedback from them. And that also kind of ties in with some of the later slides we're going to go into with some good tips on what you can actually ask your student about their day to get a better, or at least a more filled in answer than just, it's good, it's fine, I'm turning in my work, which I hear a lot of. So just so you know, these are the Zoom class rules that we had a teacher at our school put together for us at Renton, and we're using. These are Renton. They're pretty basic about, if people do have their videos on, you're not taking pictures, right? You are staying muted unless you're talking, so that your background noise, like, you guys could probably hear my child running around upstairs right now, but I have to stay unmuted because I'm talking. Keeping your computer charged, make sure you have all your needs met before class. These are just some basic rules that we have. So the next piece is on sleep and screen time. So this is so important for the teenage brain. I'm really into teenage brain science and like the developing teenage mind. That's something I've been really fascinated with for a very long time. And the teenage years mark a period of time where the brain needs an average of about 9 3/4 hours. So 9 hours and 45 minutes worth of sleep on average. Some teenagers need a little less, some need a little more, but they need a lot more sleep than a child's brain or an adult's brain. So it's real important that they're getting their sleep because it impacts learning. This is the last 5% of brain development, these teenage years, the prefrontal cortex, where all that ability to make critical decisions and future planning starts to be solidified. And sleep impacts this. Most learning memory gets set during quality REM sleep. And so if that's getting impacted, your child's ability to remember what they've learned and then be able to the next day apply that to new learning gets impacted. So I just can't emphasize enough to make sure your kiddo's getting sleep. So as I said, they need a lot more than adults. 8 to 10 hours is the recommended range. And keeping a predictable pattern, that's one of my favorite words, predictability, consistency, it really helps in getting the right amount of sleep. So a set bedtime, following that as much as possible. And then you don't have to do this, but it's something you could try out and see like how your kid's sleeping. Maybe if you have a high schooler, if you have any freshmen in this group, tracking your own sleep. If you have an iPhone, I know they have a sleep tracking app on the health app, but see if you can figure out like what's keeping you from getting good night's sleep if you're not getting one. If you're getting good sleep, cool, you're good. Screen time. All right, so this is what's interesting is that there is no single group that can agree on what is the right amount or too much time in front of a screen. Everything from phones to computers to tablets. There's no one really agrees anywhere. So it's not really about the amount of screen time, but really it's more about the quality of the screen time. So as I was saying, there's no clear limits on how many minutes of screen time your child should have, right? Instead, it's what are the types of tasks? Are they learning? Are they playing? Socialization is good though, but not if it's all they do. If all they're doing is playing all day, that's not what we're looking for in use of screen time. It is still important to take those tech breaks, right? Getting up, walking away from the screen, like Miss Pitts was saying, at the end of the night, shutting it off. But throughout the day, you need to walk away from the screen, and I don't mean walk away and look at your phone, right? Really taking your eyes off of screens. Reading a book, reading something on paper is really a helpful way to keep your brain busy, because so many of us like walk away from working on the computer and look at our phone and get on Instagram or whatever. So, you know, it's important to like really give your eyes and your brain a break. But here's the key thing. You do want to limit screen time of any kind, that last hour before bed. If this is something you can make happen, you really should be encouraging, and not just teenagers, but also adults. It's hard. It's easy to just get on your phone and play that Candy Crush right before bed, you know, to relax and wind down, or, you know, read a book on your Kindle. I get it, but that is one of the biggest suggestions that is consistent across a lot of different experts, which is not being in front of a screen that hour or so before bed. And this is where I recommend, get a good book recommendation from your favorite English teacher. I'm sure Mr. Okimoto could help you with that, for those of you who have him. All right, now this is a really important one. If you aren't able to check Canvas to really see what your kid is turning in, or because, you know, maybe you're having a busy day that day and you can't get on, or whatever, you know, this is a great 3-part question to ask your student. And students on the call, you should be able to answer this about all of your classes. And this is how you know you really know what's going on. What are you learning today? Why are you learning it? How will I know I have learned it? So for families there, these are the best 3 questions you can ask your students at any time to be able to tell you, hey, so what did you learn today in your second period class? Yeah, why'd you learn that? How did you know that you understood the information? And if they can answer those questions, then you can feel pretty good that they know what's happening in class. If your student isn't able to answer, and that's a question to be like, well, tomorrow I want you to make sure you're able to answer those questions at the end of class. And if not, communicate with your teacher, like get some help. That's a really good indication that you're not sure what's happening, and it's best to reach out to talk to your teacher. So we're going to transition to the mind frames now. So there was that really great question about 10 minutes ago about, you know, habits that we have for success. And there are a lot of habits that are physically based, like getting up out of bed, you know, taking a walk, all those kind of habits that people do that are indications of, you know, of success. But there's also habits that people can have, mind frames, when encountering challenges. So mind frames focus on self-regulation, which means the ability to control or direct your behavior, your emotions, your thoughts as you pursue long-term goals. And I can think that all of us can agree that this year, surviving the COVID and getting our grades is a long-term goal. It is not a sprint, it's a marathon. So these are the habits that we want our kids, I want my kid to develop and foster, so that when they're adults, they can be their own teachers and learn independently. They can be their own self-advocates. They can handle the problems that come their way. They don't encounter a barrier and then stop. They know how to keep going. So this is similar to mindsets. I think a lot of us have heard in the last couple of years the idea of a fixed versus a growth mindset, which isn't really a state of being. It's not like you are a fixed mindset person or you are a growth mindset person. That's kind of a misunderstanding of the idea what mindsets are. It is simply a way in which we deal with challenging situations, meaning something like learning something that doesn't come easy to you. So think about something that you struggled to learn. this is for any adults in the room and even any of my students in the room, that subject, you're like, oh, I hate it because it's just so hard to learn, right? These mind frames on the next 6 pages, on the next 6 aspects on the next page are recognized as having strong cognitive self-regulation. These are what students who have these are able to handle challenges. So we want to do our best to encourage them as much as we're able. So first off, knowing their current level of understanding. Okay, so we want students to be aware of their performance and that understand that, you know, their current level of understanding is malleable. It's going to change. They may not understand it now, but as they work at it, it will grow and they will get a better understanding. So that's okay if they don't get it now. That's not a barrier if you don't understand right now. You will eventually. The second mind frame is know where they're going and that they're confident to take on the challenge. So that they understand there's always more to learn and that they know what that is. They believe they can learn. And with the right supports, they accept the challenges of learning. So that is, that's basically like saying, you know, instead of saying it's too hard, I don't get it, I give up, it's, oh, I need some help with this. This is challenging. This is something that I know I need to learn and I can, but I need help. The third one is selecting the right tools to guide their learning. So when you are given a project by a teacher, you know what the tools are, you need to complete it. Just like if you are encountered with a flat tire on your car, you know the right tools to fix that problem and you can move forward with it. So number 4 is seeking feedback and recognizing that when you make a mistake, that's actually just an opportunity to learn. It's really, really common practice for a lot of us. And I've been guilty of this too, for sure, to make a mistake and feel really bad about it and like not want to deal with that again. Like I want to avoid what made me feel bad. So I don't want to deal with that again. So feedback in education really needs to be seen as an opportunity to try again, applying that feedback to improve. And that does feel good when we do improve. So that's the mind frame around getting feedback from teachers, is not learning how you did bad, but learning what you need to do differently to do better in the future. Another mind frame is monitoring their progress and adjusting their learning. So this one is definitely hard for a lot of people too, which is that this is a journey. Learning is not something you're done with, like ever. Even as adults, we are constantly learning, and modeling that for our students is really important, that they are going to adjust as needed to keep learning what they need to learn. And they're not just done when they've finished 9th grade or finished 8th grade. Like it's continually something they're working on. And the last one is recognize something that they have learned and then teach it to someone else. And I'm not saying that you're all going to become teachers, but that you can share what you've learned with someone. That's a really big hallmark of having really like obtained knowledge, is you can actually teach someone else how to do something or about something. That's a really important thing. And so, you know, encouraging that sharing of knowledge is a really awesome thing that we can do for our students. So,
and I want to add, Ms. War, this being online has taught everybody, parents, students, everybody, the world,
oh, yeah,
that there's so much more out there than sitting in this building in front of a teacher talking at students and teaching them in that way. We have to know that education is shifting. With that said, there's the usual hard skills that we learn, and then there's these soft skills that really aren't soft anymore. All these that Ms. War gave you, mind frames for students, that's basically, we need to be learning how to build relationships and connect with people. Students need to feel comfortable, and parents alike, all of us, the community, to email and talk with each other. Because in order to know your current level, to feel confident about the challenge, to get feedback, you have to talk and communicate. And I don't mean just verbally, but sending an email, You should know everybody's email, meaning you should know all your teachers' emails, you should know your administration's emails, and you should have phone numbers in your phone. Even if people aren't on phone, they'll get to a message sooner or later. But emailing people and staying connected is one of the biggest things I had learned in COVID-19.
That is so well said. Yeah, I mean, we can't help you if we don't know what you need. Talk to us, talk to your teachers, communicate. That is so very important. Thank you so much, Ms. Pitts. So there are a couple suggestions I just wanted to share about what actually doesn't help someone, especially a learning brain, overcome a challenge. And again, like if this is something you already know, that's great. If it's something to just consider, the first one is actually, it's not really helpful to say, oh, it's okay, I struggled with math too in high school, to a student, because that is, it actually can diminish their ability to think about how they can engage the complex text. So, or the complex task, pardon me. So it's not that helpful to actually say that. It makes, I think we think we're, you know, commiserating or acting in solidarity with our child, but it actually has been proven to not be very helpful, actually. And similarly, saying, oh, you're so smart, that's why you got that, instead of focusing on effort and persistence and problem solving and self-advocacy. It's those efforts that we really want to encourage, not just the, you were so smart, that's why you aced that test. No,
I'm going to chime in again. This is a big one.
Okay.
So families, if you have a student currently at DIMIT, we use a standards-based report card, which has effort. And that is part of that problem solving, which has community skills, which is another one of these pieces that Ms. War is speaking on. It's not graded, but it just shows the type of like perseverance, what you have when you get to a difficult challenge, how do you go through it? We're all in a difficult challenge now, so everybody should be doing well when it comes to community skills and effort. But when it comes to some tasks that might be academic, it may look different. But you don't have those grades in high school, because the high school grade then goes to the regular A, B, C, D, and F. Is that what you guys give? Yep. We don't have those grades. But when I want you to think about your standards base and where you are meeting your standard, and when you think about your effort and your community skills, how would you place yourself? Are you giving an A effort? Are you giving a B effort? How are you dealing community skills? How are you reaching out to your teachers and saying, I don't understand? How are you engaging during Zoom classes? That's what I want you to think about when it comes to these problem solving and strategies, help seeking.
Exactly, because it is a mistaken belief that some people just get it and others don't. That is not true, right? Those of us who get it maybe got it faster because the first time or second time they tried it, they figured it out. And those of us who didn't the first, second time stopped trying because we didn't get it. You need to practice the perseverance and persistence to keep trying until you get it, because those are the skills that Ms. Pitts was just talking about. Those are the skills that successful people practice. They don't think that it's just something wrong with their brain. That's not true. They keep trying and they seek help to eventually get to the point where they have acquired the knowledge they're trying to acquire. And then there's this really great quote that is, I have to admit I kind of struggle with whether or not to share this. But the quote is, when you banish the dragons, you banish the heroes. And the reason why I kind of struggle with this is because I am a parent too, and I want to protect my kid. I want nothing more to make sure that she has a successful, wonderful life, and I will do everything in my power to do that. And I have to remind myself that one of those things that I have to do is step back, because my kid has to be an active participant in her own education, just like all of our students need to be as well. Our parents, our families are partners with us at the schools, and you're there to guide them and support them in their education, but they need to own their education. Our students need to be empowered to see learning as an active two-way process that involves taking academic risks and involves persistence. And so we can't have parents solving all their problems for them. Encourage them to solve the problems themselves. Support them to do that, right? Don't banish all those dragons or they won't be the heroes of their own story. And so then I have a couple remaining key messages just to consider, some final thoughts that kind of recap all this. And then I have a couple of links that Mr. Rich is going to put in the chat for a exit ticket, and then an opportunity to ask questions, but we'll also unmute and allow people to ask more questions. So first key message to consider is how we talk about making mistakes, and do our best to make sure we make it obvious to our students and to our children that it's just an opportunity to learn. So whenever we see a mistake happen as an adult, we model for our kids, well, this is a chance for me to try again. The second thought is choice allows us to exert a little control on the world. And right now in online learning, our students are looking for as much control as they can have. And sometimes that manifests in the form of refusing to turn on the camera and participate in class because that feels safe and they got the control. Well, we recognize that. So we want to give them better tools to learn and to give them that choice that they need. So make sure your child knows what the learning expectation is of the lesson. Talk to them about the learning goals and why they're important. Those questions: what'd you learn today? Why did you learn it? How do you know you learned it? Engage in conversation about the progress that your student is making. Again, like Ms. Pitts was saying, if they're not making progress, ask them about the efforts. If they are, ask them about the efforts they're putting in. Talking to your child about learning and not just doing, right? Again, that what did you learn today? How'd you know? And then lastly, whenever you're able, try and create some opportunities for your student to teach someone else something they learned. Have them teach you something they learned in school that day, or a younger sibling. This is a great opportunity to give them confidence in what they're learning. So we have this exit ticket here that Mr. Rich is going to put into the chat for me. And it's for Gear Up, who is our one of our amazing partner programs at both DIMIT and Renton High School. Currently, the graduating classes of 2024 and 2025, that's 8th and 9th graders, benefit from the Gear Up Achievers program. We would greatly appreciate it if all families would complete this survey so that we could get some information. You don't have to do it right this second, but it would be great if you could. And then lastly, we have a link that Mr. Rich is going to put into the chat here. If ever you have a question about anything, Renton High School has a ask for help question. If you want to submit a question for a DIMIT staff through there, we will get it to them. We are happy to help, don't worry. But we just want to make sure that you know there's always a way you can reach us. So,
and vice versa, and families vice versa. You know, I have my weekly Bitmoji, I don't even, Bitly. I would paste it right there, but you know, Miss Pitts and her tech skills, I don't want to accidentally hit something and end the meeting. But I also have a link, and if you ever need to get a hold of Renton High or anybody at DIMIT, just send us a message on that Bitly.
Yeah, we are really trying to bridge that 8th to 9th grade transition and really come together as a huge community from 6th to 12th grade. Like that is a huge transition to go from, you know, elementary school to 6 years later out on your own. So we want to make sure that is supported as possible. All right, so at this
Memo has a question, Mr. Rivera.
I don't know what's happened with my internet, but that was, I love the 3 questions that you posted, right? Like at the why, what you learned today, why did you learn it? And at the same time that you are talking about it, I was talking with my kids that they're in front of me because they don't want to be on camera. But I asked them like, why did you learn that? And they say like, I don't know. And they explain to me what they learned today. And they say, I don't know why I learned that. And I don't have an answer why they learned that. Other one that is to make your brain think. Like to do any kind of thinking is to make your brain having some kind of push-ups, and then your brain is working. That's why you are learning that stuff, right? It's not that you're doing a bridge with cups or something like that. Is that your brain is working. Do you have any other better answer than that? Because they just roll their eyes to me.
Well, yeah, no, they need to be able to answer that question, which means they need to be paying attention to what is the purpose of that lesson that day. And if their teacher isn't making that explicitly stated somewhere, then they should ask the question of the teacher. And this is very important. Like, as an adult learner, when I go into a training, if I'm sitting there in the first 5 minutes, I don't know why I'm learning what I'm learning that day, I know I check out. So I have either got to figure out and be like, why are we doing this? Like, I raise my hand and I'll ask that, or usually I'm being in the education field, I'm in a room of other adult learners and someone will ask that pretty fast if we don't know why we're learning something. But that's such an important thing. Like, you need to be able to understand why you're learning it. Otherwise it has no relevancy. And if it's not relevant to you, why are you caring? So this is a huge piece. And our teachers, we are, as admin and as instructional supports, we are working to support our teachers to really push instruction that is relevant for our students, because they need relevant education. Miss Pitts just saw a really awesome, we were just talking about this. She just sat in a really awesome training this morning where she got to some more refresher on this. And so it's very, very much on the forefronts of all of our brains that how important it is to have relevant education. But your students need to make sure they understand it too.
And
right?
memo, if, so I could, I know your son and I know your daughter very well. And they should be able to, even if the teacher hasn't named it, they could send a private chat and say, help me understand how this relates to what's happening right now. That is not a smart aleck comment. That is relevancy. How is it connecting to what's going on in my world? And teachers, even if you're learning about the Washington state history, I haven't taken the course yet, but there is a relationship to how you connect it to everything happening around you. Why do you need to learn math if you might be doing geometry? Well, one day you may need to lay tile. And we need to be able to relate it to something. And if students can find that, I wish I would have known this when I was 12, 13, and 14, because I probably would have done a lot better in school. But no, finding that relationship to why it's important, it might not be for me at that moment, but 10, 15, 20 years down the road, it may.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I have an actual example of that. So my husband, he works in an industry, they do digital signage, and he had a job about 10 years ago where they had to install screens in an airport, and the screens had to be hung at an angle, and there had to be a projector that was going to project the image on. He's like, this is basic geometry. I have to remember angles and everything to make this work. And he had to go back and recall his 10th grade math to do that. And I tell that story all the time to my students. I'm like, I can't even give you a better example than that. That is something you don't think I'm going to become a math major. And my husband wasn't a math major, but he needed that later in life for his job. Are there any other questions out there, folks? Okay, well, if you have a question, please use the link to submit it. Please do that exit ticket for Gear Up. We'd really appreciate it. It was wonderful to see some faces tonight and to hear from some families. It was so great. Ah, there are the Okimotos. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. I hope that this was some helpful information. Hello.
Oh, Hannah, oh, look at my hun. Oh, I haven't seen you in so long. How's school? How's high school? Oh, good, good. Look at my babies all grown up. Hi, Dad.
So I see
I
Mr.
love
Remote
the
all
way,
the time.
Joya, they're still your babies.
I
I love that.
know,
You
I
are
know.
the
They're
best.
you
I'm getting
guys.
out of here. Glad to
Thank
see
you.
all of our kids. Hello, Hannah. Hello, Mimo. You guys are amazing. Joya, I'll see you in the morning.
Yes, ma'am. That's our
Bye.
office manager at Dimmitt. She
Aw.
wants to make sure she knows everything going on, so when people call in, she can help them.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. And that's what we're about, communication. Let us know how we can help you. Reach out. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great night. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Was really helpful. Thank you.
Oh, I'm
Thank
glad.
you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. That was pretty good.